It was one of the most star-studded Sheffield Shield rounds we've seen in recent memory, and at the end of it all, Australia's Ashes squad was named, then changed, and changed again. Welcome to Domesticated. I'm Justin Edwards, Fox Cricket's Nick Savage is alongside me. Nick, big win for Victoria over New South Wales, but that blockbuster Sheffield Shield round, it was soured a little bit by some injuries for Josh Hazlewood and to Sean Abbott at the end of that match.
Almost at the same time, the two of them went off the field and never came back. They were sent for scans. They didn't bat in the fourth innings. So Victoria only had to take 8 wickets in that 300-run win. And obviously the news has since come out that both of them won't be available for that first Ashes test. So that pendulum is slightly swaying towards England for the first test. But yeah, an exciting round of Shield, a lot of storylines to come out of it. And yeah, Victoria, New South Wales, a very one-sided affair in the end.
Yeah, 300 runs. We'll talk more about that with our guest later on. So Brendan Doggett looks like he's going to make his test debut. That seems to be the established pecking order. Michael Neese has come into the squad, but given that Doggett was named in the squad first, it looks like there's a pecking order there, and we expect a test debut for Brendan Doggett. The other question mark about Australia's 11 was Cameron Green and how big a role he could play with the ball. What was his role going to be in that first test? Well, he's gone out and whacked 94 for Western Australia and bowled 16 overs, bowled really well, took a nice wicket. That is just absolutely everything the Australian camp were wanting to see.
Oh, such an important game for Cameron because obviously it had been a few weeks since he'd even contributed many runs for WA, even going back to the West Indies. He got a bunch of starts without going on. But in a great win for WA, he got those runs, and that spell from him in the first innings in particular was really exciting. A bit wayward, a bit inaccurate. I think there was one beamer that flew past the head of one of the Queensland batters, but on the whole part, it was really impressive. He left a nice bruise on Matthew Renshaw's arm and got a really important wicket. So, yeah, exactly what the Australian selectors wanted to see from him. They wanted to see 15 overs. I think he did about 16 in the end. So, yeah, he looks now like a lock for that first Ashes test.
Yeah, definitely expect Cameron Green to be playing that first test. Where does it leave Beau Webster? He probably had his best week of Shield cricket of the entire summer because he was injured in the first part of the year, took 8 wickets, a career-best Sheffield Shield bowling performance, and then backed it up with 78 in the One Day Cup. But was it a bit too late? You think it looks like Green's going to play at 6, and there might not quite be room for Beau Webster.
I think the national selectors know what Beau Webster can contribute. He's done so over the past 10 months in the national side with a couple of really important knocks for Australia. Yes, it's great to see him bowling again. He obviously missed the first couple of Shield rounds with a minor ankle injury. So he's bowling, he's taking wickets. He got Travis Head and Alex Carey in the same innings. So great performance from him. Not the runs that we would have loved to see from him in the red ball cricket, but I think, as you mentioned, he backed it up in the One Day Cup with a 70-odd in a big win for the Tassies. So I think they're actually 4-0, the Tassies. Yeah. They're undefeated in the One Day Cup, so keep an eye on them later in the tournament as they approach the final there. In terms of the Test side, I think all this injury news with the bowling attack, with Hazlewood out, Sean Abbott out, Pat Cummins out, Australia might tend towards having 2 all-rounders just to have that cover in case, God forbid, another bowler goes down. And so we saw Cameron Green batting at 3 over the winter. He might keep that role so Webster can keep his spot at 6 with Marnus Labuschagne opening. We've spoken about this in the past, how we don't love that balance. We don't love Marnus opening. But just to have that cover, that extra bowling cover, they might lean towards that. So because of Hazlewood's hamstring, Beau Webster could be safe for another game at least.
You could see that. I think if you are going into a match looking to get overs and wickets out of your 6th bowler, you're probably in a bit of trouble. If you're needing your 6th bowler, it's probably injury, right? If you're needing your 6th bowler to actually take wickets, you're in a world of trouble. So I don't think Beau Webster's bowling, if Cameron Green's going to be bowling 10, 12 overs in innings, he seems to be a superior bowler to Beau Webster. So I don't think, even though Webster took all those wickets, I'm not sure it will be his bowling that gets him in the team. I'm expecting a Jake Weatherall debut. I'm expecting him to open the batting, Marnus to bat 3 and Green at 6. I think that's a confident approach from Australia, knowing that, yep, we'll get the wickets. And the other thing with the way England play their cricket is even if they put 450 on the board, they'll do it in 80 overs. They don't keep a team out in the field for 2 days.
That's a really good point. No, absolutely. I think we're on the same page there. I'd love to see Weatherall open. I've been calling for a few years now for 2 specialist openers to be at the top of the order rather than cycling through middle order players and trying to reinvent them as openers. And exactly right. If Cameron Green trusts his body and the medical team trusts his body that he can serve as that 4th seamer, then that's fantastic. Are they still wrapping him in a bit of cotton wool? He's had 1 great game. Does that mean he can do 5 tests as an all-rounder? Not 100% sure. I'd love to see Weatherall open. I just feel like that might not happen in Perth, as frustrating as that would be. But I have to wait and see. There's only 4 days until that first test now, and no doubt we'll get a squad, or at least a starting 11 on a Thursday afternoon when Steve Smith speaks to the presses.
Michael Nisa being added to the squad. Don't think he'll play that first test, but the second test, pink ball in Brisbane. He's a pink ball specialist, and he also adds a little bit with the bat. I suspect that's why Sean Abbott was picked in the squad as well, because he's a genuine bowling all-rounder, as is Michael Nisa. So if maybe they want to make a change to that bowling attack and Cummins or Hazelwood still not right for that second test, they could bring in Nisa for that second test, as much to give him extra batting as the extra bowling option.
Well, both of Michael Nisa's tests to date have been pink ball tests. I think a while ago now, it's been since he played, but you're absolutely right. Who's taken more wickets at the Gabba over the past decade than Michael Nisa? A pink ball, under lights, he's an absolute weapon with the pink ball. He'd be fantastic. So if they're going for that horses for courses route, absolutely. Nisa wouldn't be right for Perth. Doggett is definitely the like-for-like player for that field. But in Brisbane, if there is a little niggle, if they need to rest someone, manage someone, I think Nisa should absolutely come in. Stark is the best in the world with the pink ball. I think regardless, even if he's a bit sore, he'll be playing in that second test. But yeah, Nisa coming in for perhaps a Boland, perhaps a Doggett. I think it's a live chance for sure.
Yeah, cannot wait for those first two tests. First one starting Friday. Now, we had the Sheffield Shields in that match where Green got the 100 between WA and Queensland. There's not much in life I love more than a Sheffield Shield thriller when it comes down to the last wicket. And it was an extraordinary finish. The WA were 9 down, still needed 23 runs, and Corey Rocchiccioli and Cameron Gannon got him home. Rocchiccioli's pumping sixes. It was extraordinary to watch. What a finish to that game at the Wacker.
Heading into that final 45 minutes, all 4 results were still possible. There was still a live chance for all of them. And certainly when that 9th wicket fell, I kind of felt, okay, Queensland have got this. You have to go back a day or so to when Western Australia declared their first innings about 68 runs behind. They were still behind by quite a margin. And to keep that chance of getting a result, they declared behind. So brave move from the hosts. It paid off massively thanks to Rocchiccioli, who earlier took 4 wickets for not many in a pretty damaging spell. He ran through that lower order, bowled out the Queenslanders, and then played, as you said, a massive role in the run chase. One of the all-time classics. I mean, Tasmania have been involved in a couple of bangers recently over the last 12 to 18 months, but this goes right at the top of the queue, I think. That was a really, really special performance from WA, who hadn't had the best start to their Shield season as well. So, yeah, hopefully this gets them back on track. A really talented squad, and yeah, what a win, what a highlight. It was fantastic.
Corey Rocchiccioli finishing with figures of 5 for 47 as well as his runs. We're thinking he potentially is now ahead of Todd Murphy, or certainly in the conversation alongside Todd Murphy if Nathan Lyon was to be injured for as soon as this summer. They're definitely in the conversation for Australia's next trip to India, which is in about 14 months' time. But if Lyon was to go down, especially on a bouncy pitch, Corey Rocchiccioli could make a test debut this summer.
Yeah, we were speaking about this off air in that he has the skill set for Australian pitches. He's a tall release, gets a lot of dip and bounce on the Australian decks. So I think he's a very strong chance of coming in. I feel like maybe Matt Koeman, who is contracted and has done really well in the test side, probably will still be favoured. Australia might go for 4 fast bowls again, as they did in Kingston a few months ago, which paid off very well. They bowled out the Windies for 29. But I see if they want a like for like in Australia, Rocchiccioli is a really, really good shout. 2027 in India, no doubt there'll be Koeman, there'll be Murphy. We both love to see Mitch Swepson there as well. But yeah, there's a very strong chance that if Lyon, God forbid, has an injury, it's Rocchiccioli time. It'll be really cool to see.
What a fantastic finish it was to that game. And a quick little note as well, I like the new rules that were brought in a few years ago. So first innings points are not everything in Sheffield Shield matches, which allows WA to declare behind and get the result at the end. So the new rules, they are more complex, and I'm not even sure that I understand them completely, but they do allow for this to happen. The other big talking point out of that game was Matt Renshaw scoring 100. You feel like his Ashes chances were hurt by being picked for Australia, which is sort of a funny thing to say, but he couldn't play the Shield matches that, say, Marnus Labuschagne could play. He was playing white ball cricket for Australia, did pretty well. He gets the 100 now. Is it a little bit too late for him, do you think? Where does he sit in the pecking order?
He's still only 29. He's still probably in his prime years, I suppose. When people talk about batters, they say they're late 20s, early 30s. Usman Khawaja's not far from retirement.
Yes.
Like we expect it to come within the next 12 months or so. So there will be a vacancy there very, very soon. Weatherall's preferred for this series because he complements Khawaja quite a bit, as we've spoken about in past episodes of this podcast. But Matthew Renshaw is, I reckon, a good chance of taking that Khawaja spot. He's probably up against a couple of young guns in Campbell Kellaway, and Sam Constas will also be vying for that. But if he backs it up next week and the following week with more Shield hundreds, maybe even puts a little bit of pressure on Khawaja in this series. If Khawaja starts poorly, there's every chance of Australia making a change and maybe giving him a tap on the shoulder. So Renshaw's not far after all. We saw Khawaja come back and revive his Test career at age 35, and look how amazing he's been over the last 4 years. Renshaw still has a long amount of time ahead of him to revive his Test career as well.
Yeah. Usman's not saying it. There is sort of a thinking that this will be Khawaja's last summer. He's certainly not saying it. He's taking it one series at a time, but it's going to be... He won't be in the next Ashes in England, for example. So that spot will be available, and whether it goes to Renshaw or a guy like Campbell Kellaway, but that's the openers. We've been talking about this since David Warner's retirement. The openers are the most interesting part of the future of Australian cricket, because is it Constas? Is it a guy like Kellaway, who we'll speak more about? There's Renshaw as well. Maybe you've got an opener. Is there anybody outside the Ashes squad that you think could be a factor in the series? The last time England were here, Australia played 6 quicks. Jai Richardson and Michael Neser and Scott Boland, who we weren't really talking about back then, made this amazing debut. Do you think there's anybody outside of the squad at the moment who could be a factor later in the series?
Well, I think you just mentioned one of them, Jai Richardson. I could see playing a big role towards the back end of the series. We haven't even had a first test yet, but half of Australia's bowling attack is wounded, is sore, is in the casualty ward. Those bowling stocks are going to be extended and pushed even further over the next few weeks. And there's a chance for Jai Richardson to maybe be parachuted into that squad. Jai Richardson was just named in the Cricket Australia 11 to play, I think, the England Lions at the Gabba. So he'll be involved in that game, a multi-day game. If he can prove his fitness there, and then we think in round 6, play a Shield game for WA, and he gets through that with strong performances, his body's fine, maybe at the back end of the Ashes he could come in and play a massive role in Melbourne or Sydney. So maybe keep half an eye on how he's going into the domestic formats, because, I mean, God forbid we lose Josh Hazlewood for the series, if we lose Cummins for the series, if there's another injury, they're going to really stretch those bowling stocks. And Jai Richardson, he's a gun. We all know how great he is. He just needs to keep his body together. So yeah, he's my choice.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see Jai Richardson back bowling with a red ball. We'll see him, I'm sure he'll play a lot for the Perth Scorchers over the Big Bash. My guy outside the squad who I think could be a factor is Campbell Kellaway. So I think, as we mentioned with Khawaja, say, for example, worst case scenario, Australia are 2-0 down after 2 tests and Khawaja's got 4 scores under 10. I think they'll have to make a change there. And I think they're committed to taking a longer approach with Constas. So it'll be down to Renshaw or Kellaway, who started the Shield summer really strongly, got the big 100 and got a proper working over with Mitchell Starc. We'll talk about him a little bit more with our guest coming up. We speak to Victorian coach Chris Rogers, with Victoria sitting pretty on top of the Sheffield Shield table.